like a carburetor looking thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
What is that?
This is an airlock. So these are our Chardonnay barrels. So because we're fermenting the wines in these barrels, the yeast is eating oxygen like us, breathing in oxygen, breathing out CO2.
Gotcha.
So because they're doing that a lot very rapidly when they're fermenting, they need a place for that CO2 to escape. So it's kind of like a one-way valve. The CO2, when this is fermenting, will actually bubble up through that water and escape out, so the pressure in the barrel doesn't build, but it prevents anything from getting in there. I can't just have an open top and let bugs and stuff get in there.
Right.
So it's kind of just like a one-way valve.
So we are going to open the top. And by the way, hi again, everybody. This is Hank Zona, the Grapes Unwrapped, with Mike Beneduce, Beneduce Vineyards, and we're continuing our series on a year in the life of a vineyard and winery.
That's it.
So thanks for having us back, Mike.
Thanks for coming.
Great. So today we're going to do a few things again, inside and outside, weather permitting. So we're opening up the barrels. We're going to do some barrel work today, right?
We are. So this is our 2017 Chardonnay.
Okay.
So one of the things we do first time when we open a barrel is we want to look inside, and you just want to kind of look at the surface of the wine. One thing we would be worried about is if there's any surface film growing on the top of the wine. That would mean there might be a bacterial infection in there. So just visually, we first check it. There's nothing on there. You can see it's clean. Kind of looks like the bottom of a well. And then we want to pull a sample.
Okay.
So we use that with, this is called a wine thief.
Yep.
It's basically just like a big turkey baster.
Yep.
Or a straw. You stick it into the barrel.
Yep.
Put your thumb over the top of it, and then it comes out with wine. So this is our 2017 Chardonnay. So we'll taste this first, and then I'll tell you kind of what we're doing to the wine at this point.
Great.
So you can see this is unfiltered.
Yep.
These wines are fermented and aged in the barrel on what we call the lees, or the yeast sediment. So we're adding a small amount of yeast to this at the beginning of the fermentation. This is way back in October.
Yep.
It's fermenting in this barrel. We let that yeast settle to the bottom of the barrel. For a Chardonnay, we actually age on the lees, or the yeast sediment. And the thought behind this is that basically, as the yeast the cells break down, they add a little bit of a creaminess to the wine.
Gives that richness to it.
Exactly. So we want that in our Chardonnay.
Yeah.
So we're aging on the lees. So you can see it's a little bit cloudy.
Yeah.
Again, kind
but
of like
still has a really pretty color to it, which
really
is
nice color. So
cool.
let's taste this, see what we think it is.
Yeah, I mean, you got some really great acidity in that wine. That really is coming through.
Yeah, 17 had beautiful acidity. So kind of what we're doing at this point is trying to figure out how often we want to, how much texture we want to add to that wine. So we know the acidity is always going to be the backbone of that wine. I always want our Chardonnay to be acid driven. But one of the things we can do is kind of fatten it up as it ages, and the way we do that is through lees stirring, or what the French call bâtonnage.
Bâtonnage.
Stirring, because I don't speak any French.
Neither
but most of these techniques were developed in France, and so they have the original terminology, which they call bâtonnage, and this is what they would call a bâton. Right. This is the bâton, so this is what they're using. Right. So a bâton is very just simply a curved tool like this. You can see this one has kind of a football-shaped thing at the bottom that swivels. And so what we're doing, you can imagine the yeast sinking into this barrel. The bottom of the barrel is curved, so we need to basically scrape the yeast off the bottom of the barrel. And so that's what this thing is letting us do. It goes in through the top of the barrel, and you can see when it goes in, then it can sit at the bottom of the barrel like this, and I'm basically just going to scrape the bottom of the barrel. And so we'll do it from either direction.
Folks, this isn't one of those high-tech putters out there, so don't go looking for it at your golf stores or anything.
And this is an old school technique, and this is, bâtonnage, lees stirring. We have to do this on every separate barrel, typically once a week when the wine is young.
Early on, you said,
as that starts to build richness, it really is barrel by barrel. So one of them might need it once a month, one of them still might need it once a week. And so part of that for me is tasting it and saying, how much do I want to fatten this up? How much creaminess do I want to add?
And that's based on taste.
Based on taste, totally.
And that's just another example of how you don't shut down. You're a year-round, 12-month operation when you've got wine going.
Yeah, I mean, these are still really young wines. These will be bottled in June, so we're just sort of kind of lightly guiding them toward that. And this is one of the important things we have to do.
Yeah. So
I'll show you on this one, and then maybe you can do it in the other direction.
Excellent. Mike's cheap labor today. Yeah. not necessarily good labor, but cheap labor.
So bottom of the barrel's curved like this. I'm starting at this end and then just kind of scraping it into the middle.
Okay.
So that side's done. Why don't you try it this side? And so you're going to basically put your hand here and then just kind of scrape toward the
just
middle.
like this? Wow, I already sound like I'm not doing a good job, Mike.
It takes a while to get a feel for it. So try to picture it dragging along the bottom of the barrel, and you can actually feel it. You can feel the wood.
You can feel it, and you can see it in the wine. You can see, you already see that it's already blending in.
Absolutely.
Into the, visually, you can get a sense of that.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's pull another sample, and we will we'll see what that wine looks like after. You've stirred the barrel up, and you can see already.
You can really see it.
Totally different color.
Yep.
So now that yeast sediment is basically stirred back up into the wine, and you'll notice actually even on the palate, you'll taste a little bit of the difference. And just it's a little bit thicker, a little bit creamier, and as you can see, it's almost like milky white.
Yeah.
So you can see the difference here.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, really creamy. On the nose, I don't find that much of a difference because it really is the same wine. I mean, the yeast is imparting those aromatics slowly over time. So it's not you're going to notice a total difference on the nose, but on the palate, you're going to pick up a little bit more richness.
I'd say there's still lots of fresh fruit in that nose.
Yeah, really citrusy.
Beautiful, yeah.
I really like where this is headed. Again, it's just finding that balance between how do we want to balance that creaminess with the acidity at this point, and then also how is this barrel going to work itself into the larger blend. So we're looking over about 20 barrels of Chardonnay. They're all from 2017 vintage. The same fruit, it's just that each barrel is actually going to be different. So we use different coopers, we use different barrel makers. We use wood from different forests. We use different toast levels. And so even though each of these barrels is from the same fruit, they all actually taste totally different.
Right.
And so part of our job this time of year is to work on blending. We lose an angel's share or evaporative loss. And in this barrel, it might be about 1 bottle per month. So over the life of this wine, it's going to lose about a full case worth of wine just evaporating into the air.
Lucky angels.
Yeah, that's why it smells so good in here.
That's right.
One of the things we have to do is top up. So we want to we don't want to just let all that wine evaporate out and let it go lower and lower, because any bacteria that wants to grow on the wine is going to grow on the surface. So we want to basically eliminate that surface.
Right. So you're keeping it
exactly. So we have to add more Chardonnay.
And change the flavor profile too.
Exactly. So it's basically we just use a lemonade pitcher here, pretty low tech, and we're basically just pouring wine until it gets all the way back up to the top.
Mike, last time we were here, it was January.
Yeah.
It was freezing out. It was 14 degrees out. And these tanks were frozen, but not as we learned in the video. By design, not because it was cold out. They're no longer frozen. What's happening? Where are we at now, a couple months later?
So this is our Gewürz, same one we tasted last time. And these were being cold stabilized last time we tasted it. These have now been cold stabilized. They've now been filtered, so it's a clear wine. We're getting ready for bottling. So we're bottling this in about a week, a week from today actually. And so, the wine is basically where it's going to be when it goes into bottle, which is a nerve-wracking point for a winemaker because there's no more changes. It's kind of like hand your test paper in,
it's done.
Pencils down. So what we're doing today is just doing kind of a last chemical analysis of the wine, just getting a pulse on where the pH is, where the sulfite level is, all that kind of stuff that we want a baseline for when it goes into bottle. So you can see it's been filtered, nice and clear. I'm going to pour a little into your glass here so you can taste it.
Wow! Just right off the bat, the nose is really It's really what it should smell like, Taste it too. Wow, that really got great accent of flavor in that. I think that's how I would describe it. There's real accent on the flavor in this.
Nice, awesome. So we're going to head in. We're going to give a little sample of this to our lab tech in here, and she's going to run some numbers.
So Nora, we're going to see Nora is lab tech, assistant winemaker.
Yes.
This is the science part of wine.
The fun, nerdy part. Stuff that gets me excited.
Hi, Nora.
Hello.
This is Nora, this is our assistant winemaker here, and she is running a couple tests on the wine. We're running, number one, a pH. So behind her is a pH meter. That just tells you basically the basic level of acidity in the wine. We want to know that number before it goes into bottle. And then this kind of Breaking Bad Frankenstein looking thing is where we're checking our sulfite level.
That goes a New York City cocktail bar.
Exactly. A little smoked orange peel on top.
Beautiful. This is beautiful. And that'll be $19.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how we're checking our preservative level, and we want to make sure that the preservative level is correct before we go into wine, because again, we don't have any other chances to change
You'll know
that.
the alcohol level.
Alcohol level.
What do you think is coming in at, by the way, on this?
Alcohol, that's probably around 12.9.
Yeah. Now, once again, we have to go outside.
And outside. Hope you brought gloves this time.
I didn't bring gloves, but it is also about
it's warmer.
50 degrees warmer, probably, or at least 40 degrees warmer than last time. So we'll see you outside.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks.
Early on in pruning of 20,000 vines 2 months ago, and this is basically it, right?
We just finished yesterday, actually.
Wow.
Number 20,000.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Feels good.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Now on to the next thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, now that they don't have anything else to do. So where are we at now?
So now these are pruned. So you can see last time it was kind of a mess. Now they're pruned down to what we basically are going to use this year. So we're actually going to use only 2 of these, and we leave 3 just in case one breaks while we're tying it.
Gotcha.
And so that it gives us a couple options basically when we're tying down. So that's what we call this, cane tying or tying down. So this bottom wire here, this is called our fruiting wire.
Okay.
So what we're doing is basically picking 2 of these canes, wrapping them around the fruiting wire, and that's going to be kind of our start for the season. So you can see here I got 2 trunks. I want to basically pick 1 cane per trunk.
Okay.
I like this one. And your a couple things that go into the decision. One is the thickness of the wood. So it should be about pencil thick. You can see these are all nice thickness. And also the second thing is where they start. So you can't start a cane above the fruiting wire because then you don't have any buds for next year. You have to actually think 2 years ahead.
Interesting.
So I'm picking this one because it starts in a nice low spot and it's a good thickness level. And so we're basically just going to kind of work our way onto this bottom wire. And grapevines are vines, so they want to hold on to something. They grow these little tendrils throughout the year, and so they want to basically grab on.
Lock in.
All we're doing is just a very gentle twist.
You're leading them, and then they'll do the rest.
Exactly. So you can see that wants to stay there, and then we use just a tiny little rubber band tie, and that's just going to kind of anchor the tip onto the wire so that if it gets windy or something, it doesn't unwrap. So we've got one in there.
So it's a real sign of spring too that these are so much more pliant now, right?
Yeah. So last time they were like a little bit brittle and
really
cracking.
Really,
So you can feel these actually now. They bend.
So you know there's the water's really returning to the vine.
And you'll actually see it off the tip. There'll be little drops of water, and that's actually the vine waking up from the spring. The roots are absorbing water now. It's sort of like pushing everything. Yeah, exactly. Pushing everything out. That capillary action. So we're just doing the same thing here.
You're talking science again.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, nerdy terms. I can't help it.
Do not be sorry.
So we're just wrapping that one there. We're going to tie this off here. And then if we need to adjust the length on them, we can just always clip them a little bit.
Because you want to keep them within the...
Exactly. And anytime we prune something, we always make a 45-degree angle. And this is good even for people at home pruning apple trees or anything. If you're cutting the tip of something, you never want to cut it flat. Because what that does is the water droplet actually sits there, and that can promote fungus to grow. If you cut it on a 45, it actually promotes the water to kind of wick away from it, and it drops off, and then you get a cleaner cut.
Good to know. Really good to know.
So we've got 2 down. We don't need this 3rd one, so we're actually just going to clip this off. And then that's basically where we're starting.
And when this dries up a bit, then you're going to come and basically grind these up, mulch them into.
Yeah. So this is really good natural fertilizer. It has all the nutrients that the vine needed to grow that wood. So we're basically just going to recycle that. We're going to come in with a mower, chop that back up, let those nutrients go back into our ground, and then they're going to reuse it for the next year's wood. So you can see what we're starting with here is. All of our buds are starting in this kind of same horizontal line.
Right.
Each of these is a bud. So when they start to emerge, what we have is kind of a nice consistent growing space, and they all start to grow up. Throughout the season, we use this system of wires, catch wires and fixed wires, to basically train those shoots to grow up through the wires, and so they create that nice thin canopy that we had at the end of the summer. And that's why we want to start this all here. The grapes actually only emerge on the first 6 inches of growth from the shoots. So that's why we start them all in this horizontal line, because once the shoot will go all the way up to the top and actually keep going. We'll actually have to cut it, but the grapes will only be in the first 6 inches. So we have this really nice fruiting zone. Makes it easier to harvest, right? Instead of going up and down and up and down. And it also allows us to do things like leaf pulling, where we can open up the canopy a little bit and give a little bit more air and sunlight. Yeah, you got to be really reactive, and honestly, you do have to listen to the plants. Plants have energy, and they have a means of reacting to their environment. And I'm not talking about hippie energy. I'm talking about science energy.
Right.
And they might not have a brain, but they do react to sunlight. They do react to water. And so part of my job as a grower is to listen to those things, be tuned into them, and react to them. And so just basically hear what the plant needs and give it that.
we go take a look now where we're preparing the new plot?
Definitely, let's hop on.
Here's Louie. This is not a modern art installation.
A blank canvas.
It's Christo's latest.
Yeah, exactly.
Latest installation. This is a future.
Yeah. So this is going to be Riesling in about 2 weeks. So we typically order the vines from nurseries about 2 years in advance.
Really?
So because they're all custom clones and different rootstocks that we're kind of combining and still trying to do a couple different combinations of each of those. And so this is going to be another 2 acres of Riesling. So what we've done is last summer we started with this. We did a soil test to see if it needed anything like lime, or like if you're in a home garden, you need to see if it needs nitrogen or phosphorus.
Right.
We typically have pretty good soils here, so they don't need a lot of nutrients, but we do hit it with a little bit of lime, which just brings the pH up.
Gotcha.
So reduces the acidity of the soil a little bit. We put that lime down, we plow it with like a big tractor. So just like in your garden, you'd maybe use a rototiller or a hand tiller.
I've got a rototiller, yeah.
Yep, same thing. Ours is just a lot bigger. And then we roll everything nice and flat, and then we put the posts in. So the posts go in first for us, and then we'll actually do planting basically in between the rows. In about 2 weeks we'll start.
Wow. So I'm a home gardener. I've got my tomato plants, my vegetable garden. What are the similarities between what you're doing, what a home gardener does, and where does it get different? I mean, I can go to a catalog, or I can start, you're not starting from seed, but you're going to a catalog of sorts, if you will, but yours is custom.
Right. Ours is custom. I think everything's just bigger scale, right? So you're still tilling the soil, you're still prepping it, you're still hopefully putting a garden fence up, right? Ours just happens to be 50 acres big. It's a big garden. And then we're, maybe if you were planting a tomato, you'd put a tomato cage or a stake or something for it to grow up. We're doing the same thing. We got posts, we've got wires. You would be digging a hole maybe with the little trowel or shovel. We use a big auger because we got to dig 2,000 holes here, and so
it's easy.
Digging that with a shovel wouldn't be too fun. It's just a big hole. We plant the vine in, and then we put the soil back in, and everything's done by hand. I mean, it's all planted by hand. And then we'll typically go in and put the trellis wires in after that, so that the vines have something to kind of grow up and grab onto.
You're putting these vines in, how long before you get fruit in order to make wine?
Yeah, so we'll get fruit in 2020. So 3 years.
2018,
folks. Right. 3 years down the road, we'll get fruit, and then it'll take, for Riesling, about another year to make the wine. For something like our Pinot Noir, which we're putting another 2 acres in as well, that'll take 3 years to make the wine. So that block we'll plant in 2 weeks, and we won't be drinking that stuff for 6 years.
So this is your process. 2 years to order, and then you put it in the ground. And so it's really 8 years from the time you start thinking about it to the time you're actually able to produce a wine from that.
Yeah, it's a long lag time. And so I think I always try to tell people, like, new growers come in and they say, oh, I don't know, whatever, Chenin Blanc is really hot right now, or whatever.
Right. Why can't you just grow it?
Just plant it. Yeah, like that doesn't work like that. It's not like you can just order something and it's in. We have to think 10 years in advance, and trying to do inventory management and all that kind of stuff comes into play. But
plus, you also have to decide, why you chose this for Riesling and why you chose that for Pinot Noir. There's a reason behind that too, and it wasn't just because you woke up one morning and said, "I think I'd like to have Riesling here and Pinot Noir there." There's a whole process that goes into that. So the other thing, we're here on the edge of your lavender plot. Right, and this was something that we were talking a little bit about last time. You've decided to grow some different things on the property, right?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that I get to do a lot of traveling to other wine regions, and one sort of trend that I see, especially in Europe, is this sort of back to a more holistic farm mentality rather than a monoculture, which is planting everything in one crop. So if you think about like the cornfields in Nebraska, it's really not healthy. It's very unnatural to have one crop in a specific place. We're doing that with wine grapes to an extent. We do have different varieties of wine grapes, but it's really good for the ecosystem, add other crops to that ecosystem.
Right.
And so, if you look at our property, it's kind of a bowl, and all the cold air sort of sinks into this lower spot in the farm. So this is the lowest spot of the farm. It's actually too cold to grow grapes here. We wanted to plant something here. And so we ended up planting 4 different varieties of lavender. So this is all English lavender.
Great.
We use dried bouquets, fresh bouquets. We do some oils out of it, aromatic sachets. Great for cooking. pudding. You can make a rub out of it.
I love it. It's one of my favorite ingredients, actually. Yeah. And the best part too is Louis doesn't smell like wet dog all the other day like today. He's lavender fresh after running through.
Smells great. And we did this as kind of a community outreach project. So we work with a different charity every year. So we let our staff pick a charity, and then we donate 50% of the profit from the sale of lavender to that charity, and we try to use volunteer labor as much as we can to harvest it.
Oh, good.
So we're kind of making it a whole community thing, and just using a part of the farm that had no use, and giving it a purpose, basically.
Was last year the first year?
Yeah, last year was our first harvest on this.
And the plants look great.
Yeah, we also have some beehives because the honeybees love these. So they're great. They pollinate. So you
get some real lavender honey.
Lavender honey, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's just a good
and
crop.
If the wind blows the right way, you can smell it probably.
The neighbors love it. Yeah.
And Louis loves it.
And Louis loves it for sure.
Cool. So Mike, thanks for having us out again.
Absolutely. Thanks for
coming. As always, a pleasure hanging out with you. And we'll come back another month or two and see what's happening. Things really will be starting to ramp up next time.
We'll see some green out here next time, which will be nice.
Cool, excellent. Everybody, thanks for tuning in again. This is Hank Zona, the Grapes Unwrapped. Thanks again, Mike Beneduce, Beneduce Vineyards, and we'll see you next time. This is pretty cool stuff.
Thanks, Hank.
Thanks, Michael.